Sure, 100%, like identify your market first, like know what market you want to be working in.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hello Haymarket. I'm your host Daniel Nice, and today we have Mike Capello from Simpli. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be back.
Absolutely. So today what I wanted to focus in on with you is the relationship dynamic between a wholesaler and an investor. Really commonly when I'm sitting down with a new investor who wants to get their feet wet, get another property, or sometimes even their first property, the major conversation we have to have with them is like, look, how are you sourcing a deal, right? Because sometimes they get this misunderstanding that it's going to be the agent's job. It's like, well, look, if I'm going to find the deal, I'm probably going to keep the deal, right? So I figured who better to talk to about finding deals than the man himself.
The deal finder.
That's right. So maybe we start off with some basic definitions and we go from there.
Sure.
Mike, what is wholesaling?
Wholesaling is essentially the act of getting a property under contract, and you take that contract, you're basically selling a piece of paper. So you get a contract with the seller, you have the contract now in your hand, you have rights to buy that property, and then you take your rights and you find an in buyer to assign those rights to. It's also known as an assignment of contract. People call it different things, but that's essentially wholesaling in a nutshell. It's quite simple. You get a contract, you find a buyer, and you're just kind of the middleman. You collect a fee for basically finding the seller, finding the buyer, making the match. You collect your fee. Yeah,
so it sounds to me like the wholesaler's job is finding deals, and then he gets paid the finder's fee, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
And then he doesn't have to be risking a lot of of his own money with the actual investment, whether it's a flip or a hold or anything like that. He can just make active income doing this.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great way for people that are interested in real estate investing to get into real estate investing with little to no money.
Yeah.
If you can find deals, there's a million ways to do it where you don't need to be spending a lot of money on marketing. You can find a deal and find an in buyer or find another wholesaler that has buyers. You can make money in real estate investing with very little income.
A lot of people think about the deal triangle that got popularized on Bigger Pockets, where they talk about, look, you got 3 ways that you can be involved in a deal. You can be the one with the money, you can be with the one with the skill, or you can be the one who finds the deal. And of the 3, I've found the one who has the most power in that relationship tends to be the one who finds the deal.
The power's in the contract for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Another misconception that I want to clear up is this a passive thing? Can you just do this part-time and it'll be easy?
Nothing in real estate is easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And I know a lot of people that do it just kind of as a side thing to make a couple extra bucks here and there. You don't need a license. You really don't need that much time. I mean, the deals themselves don't take a lot of time. Finding the deals can take time. Finding a buyer can take time. But all in all, you could, in theory, get a deal done in a few hours if you have the right deal and you have the right buyer lined up.
So I was really expecting a totally different answer, if I can be totally frank, right? I was totally expecting you to say, like, hey, it's a full-time job, this is hard to do.
I mean, if you want to be a full-time investor, it's a full-time job. Making a living off of it takes time, and you have to learn the skills and know how to have the conversations, but you could very easily do a deal a month if you wanted to by just making some phone calls on the weekends or at night. I know a lot of people, that's how they get started until you're doing enough deals a month to replace your active income.
Yeah.
For me, I took a little bit of the road less traveled, and I kind of just jumped in with both feet. Fortunately, I have the support of my wife, who has a full-time job and has been successful on her own, and I sold another company, so I had a little bit of money to play with and time. So I was able to jump in and just do it full time. But that's not everybody. A lot of people just want to learn the game and maybe get there eventually, or maybe they don't want to be a full-time investor. Maybe they just like real estate and they want to make a couple bucks, doing it. So you can certainly do it as little or as much as you want.
Wow. So when I'm talking to these investors, right? And we're going over the hard facts of, well, someone's got to be finding the deal, right? Who's this going to be, right? I kind of chalk it up into 3, maybe 4 categories for how this goes. And I want to get your feedback on how I've been describing this to folks. I say option number 1, you be the wholesaler and you go find the deal, right? Self-source.
Bingo.
I say option 2, you pay someone else to do it, right? You pay the finder's fee for someone else who has sourced the deal, right? And that means getting in relationship networking with the people who are actively doing that, right? They got to find a Mike Capello. Option 3, I say, is that you can negotiate a deal, right? You can still find deals on the MLS, right? Like if your agent, like Dan, right? If I send you something and it's been sitting on the market for 3 months, well, maybe there's some opportunity there.
Absolutely.
And then quasi 4th option, if you put enough money down, anything will cash flow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not anything, but most things. With enough money down, you can force the deal.
Sure.
But then we have a lot of different metrics to talk about. So that's why I kind of call that one a quasi one.
Yeah.
Because you're not really getting a great return necessarily.
Yeah, you're not getting a great return, and then you've got all your cash stuck into one deal when you could maybe take that cash and turn it into 4 deals.
Yeah.
So I would never recommend that. I'm all about leveraging debt and making your cash go as far as possible. But it's certainly an option for somebody that has a lot of cash that maybe they want to deploy into something.
Or they just have a different risk tolerance.
A different risk tolerance or different interest. Like maybe they just fall in love with the place and they just want it and they're able to buy it and make it their second home or their vacation home or their
Airbnb,
part-time Airbnb.
Yeah.
Sure, there's a lot of that happening as well. So what questions do we have relating to the 4 things?
Yeah, so what I wanted to ask you about those is as a new investor coming into it, they have to decide which one of those routes is going to happen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to sit there for 3 months twiddling their thumbs and why can't I find a good deal? Well, because you're not doing any of the 4 things, right?
Yeah.
So let's take number 4 out. They're probably not interested, or let's say hypothetically, the one that we're going to pretend we're talking to right now.
Yeah.
They're not interested in just putting a ton of money down. The next option would be that they find a good deal on the MLS and they just make it, they negotiate it to the point.
Yep.
So we can try that.
Yep.
That's pretty straightforward. You can have your agent do that. It's not really useful for today's conversation, so we'll take that one out.
Okay.
So that just leaves the other 2 options, working with a wholesaler or acting like a wholesaler. So let's start off with working with a wholesaler. What does that look like? How does a new investor form these relationships?
Yeah, I mean, it's a networking play, I guess. I mean, going out, going to local meetups, going to local Facebook groups, just find out who's wholesaling in the area. And there's big players, there's small players, there's benefits to both, there's deals to be found with both. As far as how do you go about it, I mean, introduce yourself, call them asking what areas are they interested in, or pick your own area and concentrate on wholesalers in that area. And then a lot of them will just have buyers lists. So, hey, put me on your buyers list. Here's my email. And they send out, regular emails when they have deals or they post deals on their websites. It's really not rocket science, but, you need to stay up with them. A lot of the deals that they're going to uncover, if they're good deals, everybody's going to have eyes on them. That's the whole point of wholesaling, is like get as many eyes on these deals as possible. Build relationships. It's a relationship business at the end of the day. Maybe you get in good with a wholesaler in your area and they'd rather work with you than somebody they don't know, and so you've spent time building relationships with them.
What would make a wholesaler want to work with a particular buyer?
Yeah,
like when you think of the buyers that you end up sourcing to, what makes that an attractive relationship to you?
Yeah, I mean, somebody that knows what they want, first and foremost. If somebody calls me and they're just like, hey, I'm looking for a deal, I'm like, okay, well, I mean,
really open-ended.
Yeah, like, what are you looking for? So somebody that knows their buy box is super important, because if I have a deal that fits their buy box and I know what it is, I'm coming to you.
Yeah. You got to stand out.
Yeah, stand out.
Because everybody says, I want a deal, I want a deal.
That's exactly the conversation
and
we're having,
you're completely forgettable.
So
completely forgettable.
Huge piece of advice is figure out your buy box, communicate that to the wholesaler, and be loud about it, and follow up too. Like, hey, do you have any fourplexes in wherever? Do you have any single families under 2,000 square feet in Front Royal? Do you have, be very specific about what you're looking for and stand out. Like you said,
out
the
in
more
their
specific you can be, the more chance that somebody finds that they're going to come calling you.
And why is that better for you? Why does that help you?
It just eliminates a lot of the questions. Like I could take a deal and post it on my website or post it, send out emails saying, here's this deal. But if I already know somebody that's looking for that and they're reliable and I've sold a deal to them already, I'll just take it to them instead of posting it out and wasting a bunch of time.
So I see a win-win there. For you, it saves a lot of time.
Yep.
Right? And it also probably makes you feel a little bit safer about the deal because you already know this is exactly what this person wants, right? And then for the investor, it's a win for them because it sounds like they get to cut the line.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of that going on.
Instead of having to bid for, against a bunch of other people, if you get first crack at it, that could be a real benefit for the investor.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, be reliable, communicate well, and that's what's gonna lead people to you. Like if you can close deals when you say you're gonna close, and you're not, flaking out or disappearing or ghosting at the last minute, like that reputation is going to get around pretty quick.
Yeah, small world.
Yeah, real estate is a small world, especially if you're doing any kind of volume. Like people are going to know who you are, and if you're reliable and you're trustworthy and you stand by your word, then that's going to go a long way for...
How quickly do things move? When you get a deal, it's like hot potato in your hand.
Yeah.
How quickly does this get signed?
It depends on the deal, really. But, I mean, we usually tell people at a minimum we'll close in 30 days. So we like to put a little bit of a timeline on it, depending on the seller situation, too. Maybe they need more time, so we can extend that out. Or maybe they need to sell today, and we can close in 14 days or 7 days or whatever.
Yeah, I'm less referring to what the contract says between you and the client. I'm thinking more about for the investor. As soon as you tell the investor, hey, I've got a deal, how much time does that investor have to act?
Again, it's like it depends on how many offers you have, how many interested parties there are. It could be 24 hours. It could be a week, depending on how long that deal sits or where it is or how valuable it is.
Gotcha.
So
it kind of varies with the deal, right?
Yeah, deal to deal.
A deal that's got a deeper discount might, be a hot potato,
of
and then something that's a little more marginal.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So any big things to avoid when, if I'm an investor, what could I do to screw this up to make you not want to work with me?
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes back to reliability, right? Don't sign a contract if you're not planning on closing it. I hear this all the time. People get in over their head. They think they have a deal or they want to co-wholesale a deal, and they sign a contract that says they're going to purchase the property, and then they realize quickly that they don't have a buyer or they're not the buyer, they don't have the cash or whatever the reason is. And then they stop responding to messages or calls or whatever, and they disappear. That's a quick way to get on the outs really fast. So be reliable, stand by your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it and communicate. Just communicate, because things happen. Things fall through. Funding falls through. If somebody calls me 2 days before close and says, hey, my private money lender just backed out, instead of just not picking up the phone and not texting me, like there's a much higher likelihood I'm going to either have a solution for them or, want to work with them again because, hey, at least you're telling me what's going on. Like, just communicate, be reliable, be trustworthy. Like it's a trust business.
Maybe it would be helpful also to back up a step and just explain what the relationship between a wholesaler and a potential investor might look like. How does that relationship work? Is it the same way like an agent relationship would work where you're like kind of talking every day, or is it more like you're on a buyer's list and,
Yeah, I mean, it's what you make it. Like I've definitely got closer relationships, and I've got people that I don't talk to as often, but I know that if I have a deal, I can call them. You attract your tribe, right? It's the same thing. Like your vibe attracts your tribe or whatever. Like I want to work with people that I know and trust. And so those are the people that I'm going to keep closer contact with. I'm much more willing to do deals with those people for sure. And I'm much more likely to keep up with them if that's the case.
And I'm imagining you also maybe prioritize people who have a track record.
Of course, there's something to that, but anybody that can perform, like I'm happy to work with them. I've got deals that I need to move that, people get busy. My reliable buyer's busy, or they've got too many projects going on, or it's just not something that's in their buy box that they're not interested. Like, I'm reaching out to anybody and everybody that, may be a buyer, and show me you can perform.
And is it like a regular real estate deal in the sense that maybe you take the first offer you get if it's a good offer?
Sure.
Or maybe you hold on to it and a bidding war erupts?
Yeah. I mean, as a wholesaler, your market, where you're at with it. How quickly that property is going to move. So if I put something out there and I'm asking a certain price and I get that price and I know that, there's a high likelihood that I'm not going to get another offer, a better offer, of course, I'm taking that like 100 times out of 100. But if I put a deal out and my phone's blowing up and I got 10 people calling me, asking me they want to go see it and they want to make an offer, then
calculus.
Put a bidding war together, like, great. Of course, that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Most, but, and then. Okay. No, that makes sense. Let's pause from the discussion of what it's like to work with an investor. And let's go to option number 1 on the list, which is self-sourcing, right? And the easiest way to describe this is, what would you do? You already wholesale as one of your activities. So what is it like? What's a day in the life of someone sourcing deals?
Yeah. And before we get there, like, it's either you have the time or you have the money, right? So it's like, which one is it? You could have both, but the likelihood is you either have the time to go find your own deals or you have the money to find your deals. So it's like, if you have the money, go work with a wholesaler if you want. But I always recommend get started, take the time and source your own deals, because number one, that's where the best deals are going to come from, right?
Yeah.
If you're the one that's leading the charge and you're having the conversations and you're negotiating.
Yeah, and less middlemen.
Yeah, right? Less middlemen, less hands in the pot. You control the contract, you control the deal.
And something that we neglected to mention is, what should an investor watch out for when they're working with a wholesaler? Because not all wholesalers are cut from the same cloth.
No, for sure. Everybody pumps their own numbers up. So always do your own due diligence with your numbers. Know your numbers. Run your own ARV. Do your own comps. Make your own judgments on the renovation costs and where you need to come in, because everybody's going to pump their own numbers up.
Yeah.
Some people are closer to reality with their numbers when they put deals out, but 90% of the time I look at a deal and I kind of like roll my eyes a little bit, because
like,
I already know, like, there's
deal.
no way this thing is going to sell for $750,000. Like, I don't know what you're looking at or what you're trying to do, but I think there's a lot of that goes on.
Some people are a little optimistic, let's say.
Let's call it that. That's a nice way of putting it.
So for a new investor who's maybe not confident in their own ability to run numbers, are there any third parties that they could turn to help them look at those numbers?
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, along with sourcing your own deals, I would recommend to any new investor is find somebody that's done it or that's doing it at a high level or has some level of experience, and bring value to them. Ask them if you can make phone calls for them. Ask them if they need help with anything. Be a resource to them, and in return, say, hey, if I bring you a deal, like, can you help me walk through the steps?
Yeah.
It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to fast forward your progress in wholesaling or in real estate in general.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me, right? Like, you go back to that deal triangle. If you're practicing the sourcing, right?
You have the time.
You've got the time. You could have a money partner. You could have a skill partner. Anyone like that you partner with on these first deals. I'd rather get I'd rather get 10%, frankly, of a profit than 100% of a loss.
Yeah, for sure. Have somebody help you run those numbers, or there's a million spreadsheets out there that you can find.
I mean, if you have a lender, right?
Yeah.
If you got a hard money lender, they're going to underwrite this.
Yeah.
They're going to look at those numbers and tell you if it makes sense.
For sure. You want to build those relationships as well, especially if you're considering doing any kind of rehab or anything. But those are good relationships to have just for that reason. Like, hey, I've got this deal. You mind taking a look at it for me? A lot of the times people are more than willing to do that. And they already know, oh, where is this thing? Oh, I can tell you in 2 seconds. Even by just looking at the address, if this is a deal or not.
And people need to be careful if they're using a realtor to help validate their numbers, because a lot of the realtors out there have no idea how to do that. They can pull residential comps, but even then, they're not looking at it with the eyes and the mindset and knowing the lingo and knowing the ratios. So if you are going to use a realtor to validate the comps, make sure that realtor has experience investing.
I would agree with you 100%. I mean, some of the agents we run across in this business, it's a miracle that they can fill out a contract. You know what I mean? Like, not to be discriminatory towards agents, but it's true. Like, do your own due diligence for sure. Like, do your own due diligence, learn the numbers. If you don't know how to run numbers, find somebody that does and have them run some deals with you. Like,
practice.
As a wholesaler, I just got off a call with somebody that's interested in getting into wholesaling. Like, my conversation to them was just that. Number one, it's a lead source for me. Hey, you want to make some phone calls for me, or you don't know what you're doing, let's jump on a Zoom and I'll show you how to run deals if you want to make some phone calls from me. Like, that's how I'm building my business, building my lead gen, is like just by working with other investors. It's a team sport at the end of the day. Like, you can only get so far in real estate. Co-opetition for sure.
So maybe we circle back then to the day in the life, right? Mm-hmm. If the person's deciding, okay, I'm game, I'm going to self-source my next deal, I'm going to have my team together, right? I've got a lender, I've got an agent who knows how to invest, I've got a wholesaler even that I'm possibly working with, maybe even partnering with, but I want to go put in the sweat equity, right? So let's start with maybe prospecting. What does someone do to prospect to kind of drum up business?
Yeah, for sure. 100%, like, identify your market first. Like, know what market you want to be working in, whether that's, you know, your neighborhood or your county or another county nearby where you think there's opportunity, or area of the United States where you see other people investing or that you've heard is a good investment market. Nail down your market, number one, first and foremost. Like, understand that market, understand, you know, why you're investing in that market. And then from there, it's just setting up systems or processes to start generating leads, right? And I've found 100 times out of 100 that the simplest ways of lead gen are going to be the most successful, especially when you're getting started. You have to do the hard things first.
And complexity is often the enemy of success.
Exactly. And the simplest things and the things that require really the least amount of money and effort are cold calling. You don't need anything but your phone, really, and, you know, some numbers to call. Like, that's,
and how do you source those numbers?
Yeah, I mean, either go to another wholesaler that has lists already, or there's ways you can pull lists. You know, you can pay $50 a month to join, you know, an investor software that you could pull property lists of varying, you know, types. But again, it's like, nail down your market, figure out your avatar. Like, I want to be wholesaling in Fairfax, and I want to target absentee owners in Fairfax, and go pull that list, or reach out to another wholesaler that is doing it and say, hey, do you have any absentee owners in Fairfax that I can call? If I find any leads, like, I'll bring them to you and we can JV on it. Keep it simple to start. Some other ways that I highly recommend people that are just getting started, the simplest, easiest way, drive for dollars, drive for deals. Go to the neighborhood that you're interested in, get in your car or your bike or your feet or whatever, your scooter, go through the neighborhood, identify properties that are distressed, write those properties down, and either bring the list to somebody that has one of these softwares, or invest, you know, a couple bucks in software to skip trace and get the phone numbers and start making the calls, start texting, whatever method you prefer.
I mean, those both make such easy sense, right? Okay, so we've got prospecting, networking. Is there a strategy around that?
Yeah, for sure. Again, this is a relationship business, so networking with other wholesalers is a great way to get leads, and a great way to dispose of leads when you have them, or find buyers and go to another wholesaler and say, hey, I've got this deal under contract. I don't have a buyer. Can you help me out? You split the deal, whatever percentage you want to work out. Networking with agents in the area is a huge one. Agents are the ones that are out there day to day, grinding, meeting with sellers.
Deals just come to us. Like manna from heaven. It just falls in our laps because of our day-to-day business.
And a lot of agents maybe aren't great at identifying those. So having that conversation with an agent, maybe a newer agent in your area, you're a newer wholesaler and say, hey man, I'd love to work with you. I know you're just getting started, but here's what I do. I'm looking for these opportunities. If you happen to come across something, maybe it doesn't make a good listing, bring it to me. I'll pay your commission, or I'll pay you a finder's fee. And those people are out there every day looking for deals, essentially.
Yeah.
So connect with those people, connect with Allied Resources, contractors, anybody that's going to people's homes, inspectors, anything.
Maybe
cleaning people, like
HOA.
it doesn't matter. Your mailman.
I'm thinking like HOA people, attorneys.
Yeah.
Can't you go to the government sometimes to get lists of people who have like violated certain codes?
Yeah, there are like tax lien lists. There's water shutoff lists. There are some of those things that you can look for. I mean, I don't know if it's our area in particular, but I do hear that a lot. And every time I try and call the county to get a foreclosure list or a water shutoff list, they're basically like act like I'm an insane person. They're
So
like,
be ready for a headache. Trying to go through government.
But those things do exist. You have to do some homework, or again, just reach out to another wholesaler and say, hey, where do you get your water shutoff list from? Do you mind sharing that with me? I'll make the phone calls if you help me through the deal.
I mean, I think we covered the gamut. That's a lot of different people to go network with.
Yeah, for sure.
So you spend your time prospecting, spend some time networking. What if you build up a little bit of money that you want to start leveraging? What if we want to start marketing?
Yeah, again, the simple things to me seem to be the most effective. Direct mail, bandit signs have worked great for me in certain areas. And then having a system around it is the most important thing. Whatever marketing channel you choose, you have to give it time to be effective. With direct mail, they say like 6 mailings at least. So you be prepared and have your budget for 6 mailings. What I like to do is I'll pull my list and I'll cold call it, then I'll text it, and then if I don't get responses to those, that's when the mail goes out to those people. So having that system in place and then sort of getting it auto-generated, getting it on repeat for 6 mailings after, and then you want to switch your lists up at that point once you've exhausted kind of that process. But you have to be consistent just like anything else. I would highly recommend, direct mail as a good starting point. The next step to me is like SEO and PPC, pay-per-click. Spending money on that is going to be more expensive, but it's also effective. Or learn how to do it on your own. That's another thing.
Yeah.
But those things are all very effective.
Yeah. It kind of seems like pick your poison.
Yeah.
Do you want to go do the prospecting, drive for dollars, knock on doors, pick up the phone? Do you want to go the networking route, get into relationships with the kind of people who are going to naturally fall in the path of progress here? Or if you've got some dollars to spend on it, right? Maybe you don't have a lot of time, but you do have a lot of money. Maybe there's some avenues we can explore there with pay-per-click, avenues with the bandit signs and the direct mail, of course.
I mean, at the end of the day, it all works, right? It's all about consistency. Like, this isn't anything new. Find somebody that has done it and get to know them and ask them about their business. And it's an R&D business. Rip off and duplicate. There's nothing new here. It works. These simple methods, these tried and true methods work. Pick one or pick two, stick to them, be consistent, be persistent, follow up, and that's how you're going to be successful at the end of the day.
I love it. Well, we're definitely going to need to have you back on in the future to talk about why would someone even be selling their house at a discount, right? We're going to have that conversation, I think, in the future, because we've all talked about all day today how to go find the deals. But why is someone willing to give that up, right? Why is someone willing to sell their house as a deal, right? So we're going to have to bring you back on for that.
I'd love that.
Mike, if anyone out there wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, social, Mike Capello on Facebook, the Mike Capello on Instagram. Call me, email me, 703-801-8692, or mike.capello, CAPPELLO, at sellsimpli.co. That Simpli is spelled SIMPLI. I'd love to connect with any wholesalers, investors, anybody that's interested in investing, and get to know you and provide value and see how I can help you out.
Mike, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
All right.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.